Okay, so once again, my name is Asif Rahmani, and I'll be talking about the user interfaces of SharePoint 2010 today. You have, here's my information, my Twitter ID, my email address if you'd like to reach out to me. This PowerPoint, what I'm going to be discussing here, and then lots and lots of demos hopefully that I'll be showing is going to be very much about what SharePoint 2010 is all about. Okay, so this is starting from scratch really. I'm hoping that people who have been working with SharePoint will still get a lot out of it, but folks who have not ever worked with SharePoint, they will get a lot out of this presentation too. Well, that's actually the primary audience for this presentation. All right, a little bit about myself. Once again, my email address, Asif at SharePointelearning.com. And let's see, I'm a SharePoint Server MVP and a Microsoft Certified Trainer. Principal contributor at SharePoint-videos.com. That site is dedicated to providing or showing specifically no-code solutions using SharePoint out of the browser, SharePoint Designer, and InfoPath. So no code, no programming, but building some amazing functionality, I think. And currently we have 174 videos out there. There are no frill videos. 90-some% of them are just no PowerPoint at all, just talking it through, showing exactly task-based understanding of how you can accomplish certain goals, tasks in SharePoint. There's a bunch of free videos out there for SharePoint 2007 and SharePoint 2010. There's about a dozen altogether, and if you subscribe, then you get access to all the videos. By the way, this webinar is being recorded, so I will be putting up a link to this video soon, and I'm going to be sending it to all the attendees and actually all the all the folks who have registered for this webinar. This will be free for about a week, and then after that it's going to go into the subscribers pile. Okay. A little bit more about myself. I'm the co-author of Professional SharePoint Designer 2007. Those of you who have never gotten a pleasure to meet yet, here I am on the right. And I'll be contributing to SharePoint Designer 2010 and Real World SharePoint 2010 books as well. And they're way underway right now. They'll be released, I believe, in September or October of this year. That's at least a target. Okay, and also speak at many conferences. Love meeting people at conferences, TechEd, SharePoint Conference, SharePoint Connections, etc. So if you ever see me there, feel free to please come up, say hi. I would love seeing people who I've actually just seen as names in webinars. Okay. All right. About GoToWebinar a little bit. This is, of course, just a one-way communication as far as verbal goes, but you guys can go ahead and put your questions on the question panel as much as you like. I'm going to be looking at the question panel about 15 minutes before the end of the hour, and I'll just do questions, as many as you guys have, as much as I can get to. Okay, so let's do that. All right, my expectation of the audience. As I mentioned before, absolute beginners of SharePoint is my target audience in this webinar for user interfaces of SharePoint 2010. But also current SharePoint 2007 users, I believe you will get a lot out of it as well, seeing what the new interface looks like, how you interact with it, what is different from the current SharePoint 2007 user interface that you're using, etc. But be ready that you will hear some of the stuff that you already know about. Okay, hopefully that's just going to make it solid in your mind when you rehear something that you already know. All right, lots of show and tell and demos. What I'm going to be doing is about the first 10 minutes or so, it'll be PowerPoint, because there are some specific concepts that I want to make sure I make it clear in your mind. And then after that is going to be lots of demos. And like I said, I'll take a few questions at the end of the presentation. You can go ahead and put them in the question panel, and I'll get to that at the end. All right, let's get started here. SharePoint 2010. The first thing that pops into your mind, I hope, is websites, collaboration, something for building your intranet or internet sites, etc. Those are all true terms when you think of SharePoint. First thing to remember is SharePoint Foundation 2010 is a free product. Microsoft SharePoint Foundation 2010 is a evolution of Windows SharePoint Services, if you've worked with that before. So that's a new name. And it is a free product, meaning if you have Windows Server 2008 or Windows Server 2008 R2, you can go ahead and install that. It's a free download. There's a blog that I have blogged about exact location of where you can download it from as well. So go ahead and do that. That would be the first thing you would do if you want to get into it right away. Second thing, I would recommend very highly to get SharePoint Designer 2010 as well. Microsoft SharePoint Designer 2010 is the tool, I should emphasize, is the tool to customize and build your solutions on top of SharePoint without doing any coding whatsoever. So that's, of course, one of my favorite products, that and InfoPath, and you can do a lot of stuff. And I explain and I show lots of stuff that you can do on the site. All right. So that's the free stuff right here at the bottom, right? You get SharePoint Designer, you get SharePoint Foundation, you're up and running. You can do lots of things for free. There's no licensing required at all. But then if you want to take further advantage of SharePoint, if you want to, let's say, you know what, I want enterprise search facility. I want to be able to search enterprise-wise with all my data. Or I want to I want to build a few different collections of sites and then make sure they are aware of each other. Okay, I want to have some kind of standards at my web application level. I want to just be able to provide, for example, personalization sites for each of my employees or some of my employees, so they have personal, what are called my sites. All those kind of things come with SharePoint Server 2010. In addition, you get lots of pre-built web parts. Build SharePoint Server 2010. With SharePoint Foundation, you get a few, but with SharePoint Server 2010, you get a whole lot more. So in that, you can get a standard license, which is what I just explained, all the stuff that you can do with it. Enterprise builds on standard. With Enterprise, you can get all the standard features, of course, plus you get web content management features, so you can make internet sites using SharePoint. You can make extranet sites. You get something called the business connectivity services functionality to get to your line of business application data and surface them up into SharePoint. And now parts of that BCS, business connectivity services, available in SharePoint Foundation as well, but the real crux, the real web parts and everything else that you would really want are in SharePoint Server Enterprise. Also something called the Forms Server, which is something that is going to let you show your InfoPath forms. All that stuff is in Enterprise license as well, and more. Okay, so that's your second box right here. The third thing here says that now, let's say if you wanted to license SharePoint Server 2010 for Internet or extranet, well, now you have two choices. Before we had only one choice. We only had this one right here. You could have made Enterprise. You can take an enterprise version of SharePoint and put it as your internet site. The problem with using SharePoint Server Enterprise was, and it remains, that it's a lot of money. And small, medium foundations, especially nonprofit and all, they just couldn't afford it, even with the discounted pricing. So Microsoft went ahead and made the standard licensing, which is much cheaper than Enterprise, also available for internet and extranet usage. Okay, so that's just some licensing for you guys and where you would use SharePoint. Let's move on from here. Briefly, this is what we call the SharePoint workloads, or also some people refer to this as the SharePoint wheel, showing you all different things that SharePoint can do. Walk through this stuff here. You have sites. You can make sites, of course, workspaces, meeting sites, blog sites, etc. You build communities to interact with each other. You have My Sites, as I mentioned before, where people can come and see exactly what is your name, your picture, your profile, whatever you have chosen to expose. All that stuff, social tagging like Facebook kind of stuff, all is available in communities and more. Then another workload or another area in SharePoint is called content. This is where documents and items and lists, libraries, everything else fits in here. So main content, that's like one of the most important workload or most important area within SharePoint. Then you have search. You have search facility. You can do enterprise searching. You can do site collection or site scope based searches and a whole lot more. There's something else called FAST, the product FAST, which now has been available as integrated with SharePoint. You do have to purchase it separately, but you can integrate that with SharePoint and provide some really robust search scenarios. You have insights. Insights here means that your business intelligence, your charting, your graphing, your Visio services, so having Visio components be visible in SharePoint, analytics, all those kind of things that gives you insight basically in your business or in your whatever your organization basically is in the insights category here. Last but not least, in fact that's my favorite, is composites. That's where SharePoint Designer, InfoPath, all these things fit in here. So you have such awesome platform that's already there. Why not take advantage of it, build on top of it? And to build on top of it, you really need these applications, SharePoint Designer, InfoPath, and so forth, to build your form solutions and your site solutions, etc. And that's where composites come in, to take different things and build your solution without code. Okay, how are we doing over here? Let me just make sure that there's no issues in the questions and answer panel if there's anything there. Looks like everything is fine so far. Great. Moving on. A very important slide, I think, especially for the beginners, thinking about how do you really think about SharePoint. What is SharePoint? If I had to look at the guts of SharePoint, what is it made of? Well, the first thing, of course, is you install SharePoint. That's the first thing. Second thing is you configure SharePoint, make sure that it's pointing to the right servers that are in the farm. It has the right outgoing server for email, and your site quotas and everything else is set up properly. And then next thing, after your SharePoint installation is set up, configured properly, the next thing that you will do is make a web application. A web application is a IIS website, so Internet Information Services, if you're familiar with that. You have websites in that. Well, that is the exact same thing here. A web application or a website is an entity basically that's going to reside in IIS. It's built using SharePoint, so SharePoint will help you build it. Once it's built, there's your container which understands SharePoint, which understands, okay, SharePoint components will go here. And now in that website or web application in IIS, you'll be able to build what's called site collections. All right, let's talk about site collections here a little bit. I love this name, to be honest, because site collections mean exactly what it sounds like. It's a collection of sites. Okay, so you have all this stuff over here, 1, 2, 3, 4 different sites here, and 1, 2, 3, 4 sites here. Collection of sites. There will always be just one top-level site. In green, you'll see that there's only one top-level site always, and then you can have as many subsites as you want. So a subsite of a subsite of a subsite of a subsite. You can go as deep as you want. A word of caution here that it's better to not go deeper than 4 or 5 levels. Otherwise, it gets really confusing for your users and for administrators also. But you can have as many subsites and peer sites as you want in that. And that sites itself, within a site, any site, is where the real action happens. That's where the users come in. They see their documents, they see their lists and libraries, they see your pages, which has information, just maybe database data coming from a database, maybe information directly in a list somewhere, maybe some pictures, some text, whatever you want to display. That's going to be, of course, in pages within a site. All right, moving forward, a little bit of a terminology refresher one more time here is web application will contain one or more site collections, and each site collection it has one or more sites, at least one site. Now within sites you have lists and libraries, and with each list or library you can have items or files within libraries, and you can also have folders. Actually, there should be a folder here as well. So lists also support folders, and then it has items as well within folders if you want. SharePoint is fully compliant now with lots of different standards. WCAG, the accessibility standards, for example, is supported. XHTML 1.0 standard is supported. It has cross-browser support. Recommended you use Internet Explorer 7.0 or 8.0 or Firefox, the most recent one, whatever the version is right now, 3 something I think. That is what you want to use for SharePoint as much as possible. Especially if you're an administrator of SharePoint, you want to use these browsers. Please do not use Internet Explorer 6.0 or Safari for administration of SharePoint, because you might have issues, and none of these issues will be supported by Microsoft. If your users are using Macs, Macintosh computer or some other computers, and they have Safari as their browser, that's going to be okay. for contributors to contribute documents and list items, things like that, but they won't be able to administer things. Administration of SharePoint does not work well with Safari. Right. Moving on, here it is. When you make a new site, this is what the home page of the site looks like. It just gets you started. And I'll be explaining the components of the site when I actually make it in the demo. Just wanted to give you a snapshot of it first. Okay, so here you have different areas within your SharePoint site, SharePoint page really. A few things about these areas over here. You have the ribbon up top. You have what's called the status notification right here, which tells you something about anything about the page, of what state is it in right now. This page itself is currently checked out, is what it's saying. The ribbon, I'm going to be giving you a lot more experience with when I do some demos here. Microsoft made it look very much like the ribbon that's used in Office products. So if you're coming from Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and if you've at least used 2007 version of those products, then you're all set, because a lot of these things just transfer over, your knowledge just transfer over very well. This right here is a notification area which tells you of the current event that has just taken place. So once the page is checked out, and yes, you can check out pages by themselves and then work on them, this will appear and say, okay, page checked out, just letting you know, and then this will disappear after that. Okay, so here you go, server ribbon, notification alerts, and status bar. And down below here, getting started, that you see at the bottom right, this is what you want to use this area as much as possible, to be honest, because once you get into the SharePoint site for the first time, you want to follow these things to set permissions, to change your look and feel of your site, to configure, if you want, the quick launch, which is the area to the left right here, your links for your site, for example, and more. So those things I would definitely recommend getting into it, especially if it's the first time you're getting into SharePoint, and then going from there. All right, so let's check some of these things out here. Let me go ahead and switch my environment. Okay, here we go. So you should be now hopefully seeing my the top level site of my site collection. That's what this is right now, the top level site of my site collection. And this is called Wingtip Intranet. Okay. As you can see, that I have a couple of different tabs here. And these tabs right now represent two different sites, home site and test site. Test site is something that I just created for test, nothing else, but they're both peer sites here. Within that, down below, you see the different lists and libraries that exist on my site. So the two different libraries, site pages, which contain all of my pages that are for the site. For example, the page that you're looking at right now, that's also contained within the site pages library. And any additional pages that I create, which I will later, are going to be also in here. Shared documents is the default library that you want to use to share documents with people. All right. Then the list category here, this exposes a couple of different lists, calendar and tasks list, but there's other lists that are not being exposed, not being linked to over here. Those you can link to as well, and I'll show you how you can do that. But that's the default look and feel. It shows you the links to the calendar list and to the tasks list, because that's what's used the most in a typical default site. Then you have a team discussion list. This is like a news group discussion or a forum. If you wanted to start a discussion, you would start it right there. Then you have your recycle bin. SharePoint has an awesome recycle bin. It's great for protection of deletion, of course, of documents, either by mistake or intentionally you've deleted something and want to get it back. You have a recycle bin. And actually you have a two-tier recycle bin. First, if a document gets deleted or an item gets deleted, it goes into the recycle bin. And then after that, if it's deleted again from the recycle bin, it goes into a second-tier recycle bin. And the person who's responsible for the whole site collection, that person or the site collection administrator is going to have the rights to get that document or that item back from the second recycle bin. And then one of the most important links on this page is the all site content link, which if you go there, you'll see that well, anything that exists on your site, for example, your lists, your libraries, your discussion boards, your sub-sites that are below your site, everything is going to be visible right there. Now, here's a caveat. Anything and everything that you have access to is going to be visible right there. Everything that you're seeing on the screen right now is all security trimmed, meaning you will only see the stuff that you have access to see. I'll go to all site content. Here it is. I have access to see all of that stuff, so everything is visible to me. But if I didn't have access to, for example, let's say the links list, then I would not see it. Okay, so there are ways to secure lists themselves, libraries themselves. You can secure folders, security on folders. You can secure particular items within lists and libraries. You can secure whatever you want to within SharePoint. Secure pages. All right, what I'm going to do right now is start by making a new site. Site actions is where you want to go to take any action on a site. This is going to be your friend. If you're the administrator, you're going to be going there a lot. Site actions, new site. This box that you're seeing, the create box, is driven by Silverlight. Silverlight is, if you're familiar with Flash, is almost the same thing. Silverlight is Microsoft's answer to Flash, basically. Much smoother interface here. If I go ahead and click on these things, I'm not sure how much of animation you can be able to see through the webinar here, but it's got a really nice smooth transition when I click on any of these categories. Okay, so what I want is a site, and I want a team site. I'm going to name this site. So what I'm making right now is a sub-site below my top level site. And I'll give it the name webinar, okay, in honor of you folks. Create. This is what you would be doing if you wanted to hand off a workspace or a site basically to somebody to say, hey, here, go ahead and manage your stuff right there. This would be for a sub-team, for example, or a group. So now you have your site, and it looks very much like the old, the top-level site. In fact, I can get to that one pretty easily by going to this page navigation or site navigation breadcrumb. This is the current site, webinar. Above that is wingtip intranet. All right. Within the site, if I wanted to really go ahead and start hashing the page and the site, especially the page that I'm looking at right now, you would click on the page, and you can only do this stuff, of course, if you have administrator rights or designer rights. And then you can go ahead and start, checking out the page or editing the page, changing the permissions for the page, etc. There's lots of different things you can do here. I'll come back to this. First, what I want to do is the getting started stuff right here. Share this site. If I click on share this site, it shows me that there are 4 different groups of people or SharePoint groups that I have with 4 different permissions. Actually, it's 5 different objects here, but the first one is a user. It's not a group. System account that has limited access. Viewers have view-only access. Members have contribute access, which is member rights basically. Owners have full control, and visitors have read, as expected. When you go into any of them, like for example wingtip intranet owners, it shows you that administrator is the one who's the owner. Great. Let me go back. For members, currently nobody. But if you want to add somebody, click on new, type in their name, and go from there. All right. Now I won't get a chance, of course, to dive into all these subjects. All these things are already on the site as videos on the SharePoint-videos.com site, or they'll be made into videos within the next couple of weeks. Security, pages, etc. All the stuff that I'll be showing you here. Okay, so one other thing to remember here is that security can be inherited. In fact, it is inherited by default here. So this website, this webinar website, is inheriting permissions from the top level site, which is the wingtip intranet. If I wanted to change the permission, if I do change the permission or add members or whatever else, that's happening at the top level site. If I did not have permissions to the top level site, it would not let me make those changes. So please keep that in mind. If you want to stop inheriting the permissions and configure the permissions at the site level, you will simply click on the stop inheriting permissions and go from there. Okay, enough about permissions right now. Let me get back up to the webinar site. Change site theme. Second thing, change site theme under getting started. Lots of different site themes are available to me. Okay, and the palette for the site themes is right there on the left of the screen right here. The great thing about this site theme page is that I can change the different colors and different fonts the way I want. So for example, I say, you know what, this accent 1, this right here, I'm not too fond of this color right here, so I'm going to change it. I'll go to accent 1 here, select a color. Let's choose it to be a different color. Let's say about this one right here. Here we go. Accent 1 has been changed. Look at the palette. That's been changed now to this. Okay, so it's custom now. That's why custom is selected. I can preview this to see how my site is going to look like by clicking on the preview button. The first time you do it, that does take a few moments, depending on how fast your system is. Okay, that was not bad. Here we go. This is my preview for the site, what it's going to look like. Let me go ahead and shut this off right now, and if I want to apply that, I can click on apply, and it will apply that theme to my site. And then, like I said, you can change things as much as you want. There are ways to encapsulate a theme, meaning change the site theme and then package it up and then pass it around to different site collection owners. You can do that as well. All right, set a site icon. Let me go to that fairly quick, just quickly here. This is where you can change the title of your site, description. You can add that, URL to any other icon of where another icon or logo of your site. This, by the way, you'll be saving the actual picture or the logo that you want to put in a library called Site Assets Library. Let me flip to that and show you where that is. I'll click on All Site Content, go to Site Assets. Within Site Assets, this is where I would want to put my image. For example, I'll click on Add Document here, browse for my image, and I'm going to go Documents, AdventureWorks.jpg. Okay, so here's an image. Let me get into this image. Here you go. Here's the URL for the image that I just uploaded. I'm going to copy this, go back a couple of steps here, go back to my home page, click on Set a Site Icon under Getting Started, and I can put my URL right here. Okay, and there's actually a better way of doing that. I showed this in a video that is going to be going up in the next couple of days, actually tomorrow, of how you can do this and have a relative URL instead of an absolute URL that I just made. But here we go. If I click on OK now, AdventureWorks pops up at the top, and it's also clickable. It takes me to the home page of the site. Okay, so that was some of the stuff that you can do with your site. I'm going to go back, talk about a couple of slides, come back here, and then talk about lists and libraries. Hang on. Alright, so now you should be looking at the Creating Site Components or the Create Site Components slide, and just like the Silverlight page that I showed you earlier, you'll get the same kind of Silverlight page if you go to Site Actions, More Options, and in the More Options Create page, it shows you all different lists and libraries and subsites and pages and all stuff that you can create. The list is right here. You can filter by it if you want. And then within that, you can filter by the category of, if you choose a site, what type of site do you want? Do you want a collaboration type of site? Do you want a data type of site, etc.? A meeting site? So that's your page to do that. By the way, if you don't have Silverlight, that's okay. It does still render HTML Create page as well. If you're familiar with the 2007 Create page, it looks exactly the same. Silverlight is a lot better, but Silverlight is not a requirement. It's not a deal breaker here. You also have dialog pop-ups. So when you're adding a document to a library, like I showed you earlier, adding an image to my Site Assets library, or if you're adding a regular document to a document library, or if you're adding a new task to a task list, like the one that's showing here, a dialog pop-up comes up. And this dialog pop-up is not going to be affected by your pop-up blockers, like it says here. So if you have pop-up blockers set, don't worry. This is not really a true window pop-up. It's it's much different than that. it actually just grays out the back of the screen and shows you another part of the screen, just brings it up, and shows you some of the components of it. It's not really a true pop-up, so to say. All right. When you have lists and libraries that you create, you can take bulk operations on the items in lists and libraries. Those folks who are coming from 2007 background for SharePoint, you know that that was not available. It was actually, well, you could do it from datasheet view, but you couldn't do it from standard view. And now just from regular standard view of a list or library, when you're looking at a list or library, you can select multiple items and you can say, for example, I want to delete all these items, or I want to check out all these items, etc. Very good functionality to have. Let me show you some of this stuff right now. Okay, switching over. All right, so what I'm going to do here is go to Site Actions, More Options. My Create window comes up. I'll say that show me all different lists that I have that I can make. I'm going to choose the contacts list. Enter contacts here, click on Create. Here's my contacts list. It already has some items for me to choose from: last name, first name, company, business one, etc. This is your first view of the contacts list, right? It says on the top over here that you can go into the datasheet view or standard view. Datasheet view will let me go ahead and enter names quickly. This is my last name, Rahmani, Asif, and SharePoint-videos.com. Oh, that's not good. Okay, had an issue over here. Here's a really cool thing about these issues that sometimes come up. So my Internet Explorer right now crashed on me, right? But it brought it up really quickly to the same exact location where I was at before. I lost a little bit of data, but not too much, just the stuff that I was just typing right now. So not acceptable, but still much better at handling issues than it used to be. Here's my email address. Okay. In standard view, when you're adding items, you click on Add New Item. This is the pop-up that I was talking about before. Here, let's go ahead and say Smith, Tim Smith, Tim at abc.com. All right, that's Tim. Click on Save button, and it saves it. Okay. Taking actions on multiple items, as I was mentioning before, you can click on multiple items. I can click on a list over here, and I can do whatever I want with these items, right, over here. Or I can click on actually Items tab over here and say Delete Item, for example. Okay, and this becomes better when you go. Let me go to Shared Documents. Add document here. There's a facility in SharePoint in SharePoint within document libraries, and actually any of the libraries, where you can upload multiple files really easily. When you click on multiple files, it gives you this drag and drop functionality. So I'm going to have, here we go, I have a few documents here, and I want to take these documents, put them in my library, so I can just drag and drop from here. Click on OK. Boom, that's it. Very easy to do. I have 4 Excel documents now that have been put in here. As I was mentioning before, if I want to take actions on multiple documents, let's say this one and this one, I can go ahead and check out these documents if I wanted to. Multiple document checkout. Very cool feature to have. So now these documents are locked. If you hover over these icons, it shows you that it's checked out to me. Checked out to me. As far as the checkout feature goes, by the way, I always recommend one thing. Let me just go ahead and mention it quickly. You should go into Modify View of this library in the Library tab and click on the Checked Out To checkbox right here. Checked Out To. Click on OK. You'll see that makes it much easier. Now you have a new Checked Out To column. Instead of just looking at the icon, you have this column right here. All right. So that's just a preview of how you can work with lists and libraries. So now what I want to do, hang on a second here. Take a drink of water. Okay, I'm going to head back here. I'm going to head back to my PowerPoint and do a couple more slides, then jump into creating pages. Sites, SharePoint sites are very much page focused, meaning you want to give your people, your end users, pages. Within those pages, they can just go ahead and do whatever they want in there, or you can go ahead and design their pages for them with 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, whatever you want to do. Within those pages, you'll put text in there, you'll put links in there, you'll put documents directly in there if you wanted to, links to documents. You can show web parts within that. You can show lists and libraries within that, pictures, whatever you want to do. Okay. Also, something called the wiki linking appears in SharePoint pages. Wiki linking, some of you might be familiar with it from 2007 days, that you can go ahead and organically link to different items and objects on your site. So if you wanted to link to a library or a list or an item or a folder within the list or library, or you want to link to another page, it is going to suggest to you, it's going to show you when you start typing in these 2 double brackets first, all the different items that exist on your site. So you can go ahead and pick from those items. Once you pick it, it's going to make that link, and even if you move your site from one location to another location, that link will not break. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of that in just a couple of minutes. Now, editing pages are very much like editing Microsoft Word documents. You have a single-click editing experience, like it says. When you want to type something into the page, you just go ahead and start typing it in. You want to insert something, you click on the Insert tab, and you say, I want to insert this, whatever. And all the information, not the information, but all the objects that you want to store, that you want to show on your pages, like pictures, for example, or other artifacts, you want to store that into the Site Assets library. Okay, Site Assets library, the one that I uploaded the AdventureWorks picture to before, that's where you want to store your artifacts, your images, etc. All right, let's do this. Bringing up my environment right now. Here we go. So now in this site, I want to make a new page, and I am the administrator or the designer of this site, so I can go ahead and do that. Site Actions, New Page. Simple enough. It says, what is your page name? Nothing else. Just tell me your page name, and I'll go from there. Okay, this is going to be Site Info Create. Okay, so here's my page. Very, very much Word looking, Microsoft Word looking kind of page, right? It has a nice cursor that's blinking on the top left. I can just start typing it right away. This page has information about the site and its components, something like that. Okay. Now let's say that I want to maybe start with a couple of different columns instead of just one column, just one big area. I'll click on Text Layout here and say that give me 2 columns instead of 1 column. Okay, come on. That should have made it 2 columns unless I did something wrong. Maybe it is 2 columns and I'm just not looking at it. Okay, here we go. Yeah, the column is kind of hard to see on the screen, but it's there. You probably can see it better than I'm seeing on my laptop screen here. But here's 1 column, here's another column. So in this column now, what I'll also do is, in this column I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and add a new picture here first. Okay, so say Insert Picture. It's asking me where is the picture. I'm going to go ahead and browse. AdventureWorks is my picture that I want to add. And it's automatically saying that I'm going to go ahead and upload it to the Site Assets library. Is that where you want it? That is by default the best choice. If you don't do it here, then you have other options as well. So Share Documents library, which I would not recommend for pictures. Or you can have other libraries which are on this site, and it will show you those library choices. Let me go ahead and pick Site Assets. Click on OK. So in one step, it's uploading it, and it's going to show the picture right away. Once a picture is there, I have this image handlers here. I can go ahead and make the picture smaller, bigger, whatever I want to do. Just like Microsoft Word, very easy to do. And I also have the picture tools bar right here where I can change the positioning, the style for the picture, if I want to have specific pixels for the picture, I can change that here. Alternate text, which is definitely recommended for all pictures, especially the accessibility requirements here. All right, great. How about a table? Let's insert a table, 2x2 table. And I'm going to move my picture within this table. Okay, and let's change the table tool, styles now. Notice that every time I click on something, like for example, I'm clicking on picture right now, it gives me context-sensitive items in the ribbon, in the menu up here. So it gives me picture tools, and it gives me table tools because I'm in the table right now. If I click down here, now it gives me only table tools. Okay, so for this table, I'll click on table tools, click on design, click on styles, and I'll go ahead and click on the table style 3 medium 2 tones. Before I click on it, notice that when I hover over other things, it shows me a live preview of what it's going to look like. Very nice. Medium 2 tones is what I want. Wonderful. And down here, let's say I want to insert a link to something. So I'll say insert link. This is going to be SharePoint videos, and the address is the whole thing you want to put here. SharePoint-videos.com. Okay, easy enough. Now you don't really have to do this. You can start typing in HTTP as well, and it will recognize that as a link. That's another way. Okay, now let's say then the other column that we have, the second column right here, I want to go ahead and put in a list over here. I have a list called contacts, and within that context I have a couple of different contacts, me and Tim Smith, that I created earlier. So I'll go to insert, existing list is what you want to press, insert and then existing list, and in here I have my contacts list. This is going to show you all the different lists and libraries that you have on this site. So contacts, add, here we go. Easy enough, my contacts list has now been added here. And now this is going to work just like my regular contacts list. What this really is, it's a web part that's showing me the contacts list. That's what this is. But you can treat this just like the list itself. So you can click on add new item, for example. Start adding items. So Wang, Paul. Okay, save. Here we go. So just like that, you have all these different things on the ribbon to format your text, change the paragraph orientation, change the styles of your text, which is really cool. I'll just quickly show you that. I'll change the style for this. Let's say it's highlighted. The text layout you already saw, change the different columns. You also have markup styles. You can change that for different components on your site. Okay. And much, much more. So the ribbon is your friend. Definitely use it when formatting your pages. Once you're done formatting your page and you want to publish it, you want to make it ready, click on Save and Close. And here we go. Your page is ready. So now when I click on the AdventureWorks logo itself, it takes me to the home page. Within the home page, if I click on Site Pages, it shows me all different site pages that exist. The site info page is where my page is that I just modified. Let me show you one more thing, the wiki linking feature. I'll click on Page and click on Edit to edit this page. Now I'm going to go into this page right here, and I'll type in bracket bracket. 2 brackets brought up this menu. It shows me that I have these 3 pages on my site: home, how to use this library, and site info. If I want to link to any of them, click on it, 2 double brackets, done. You'll see that when I save this page, it's going to be actually linked to the home page. Let's do this one more time. I'll click on double brackets here, put double brackets in there, and then I'm going to say that let me link to a list item. So I clicked on list. here's all different lists that I have. If I click on contacts, for example, and if I stop right now and just do double brackets and double brackets, it's just going to go ahead and link to the contacts list itself. Or I can link to a particular item within the contacts list, which is really, really cool. So now it's showing me the last names. I'll say that, let me go ahead and link to Smith, Mr. Smith. Double brackets. I am done. Save and close. Here we go. Home will take me home. Go back. Smith, if I click on Smith, it will take me and show me Smith's contact card, basically. All right. And that's just the beginning of SharePoint 2010. There's just so much more that you can do in SharePoint. This is just to get you started to see what the sites are all about, site collections, when you are within a site, how you can create lists and libraries, and how do you create pages within lists and within your SharePoint sites to show information from lists and libraries and your images that you have uploaded, or just a regular text. Put tables in there. There's so much that you can do in SharePoint. This is, like I said, this is just a start of what I am able to show you within this hour. So I'm going to go ahead, go back to my slide deck here, and then I'll take questions. I'm sure there's lots of questions out there. Just a quick word here that, as I mentioned before, we have 174 videos already on the site, and it will increase by, I believe, 4 or 5 more by tomorrow, end of tomorrow. And we do have a free videos section as well, so you can go ahead and check that out if you like, or go ahead and subscribe and join us in the inside. Call to action, a few things here. You should download and install SharePoint 2010 and SharePoint Designer 2010. It doesn't cost anything. You can just go ahead and start the demo. You can watch the free videos on SharePoint-videos.com, or on the Microsoft site. They have some free videos out there too, or on YouTube. YouTube also has some free good SharePoint 2010 videos. You can connect with me by signing up for the newsletter. There's a SharePoint 2010 DVD, SharePoint 2010 Fundamentals DVD, that's set to be released within a couple of weeks. I'll be sending out a notification of that in my bi-monthly newsletter, so please sign up for that by going to the site and clicking on the SharePoint Tips and News icon, so you can sign up for it. There won't be any junk coming your way. It's just going to be good stuff. At least that's my commitment, hopefully, to you guys. And that's it. Please fill out the survey. I will go ahead and answer questions right now, but thank you very much for joining me. If you have any questions, put this in the question and answer panel, and I'll do my best. Okay? Let's see. All right. Can you search across multiple web applications? Do you need standard or enterprise SharePoint for that? Very good question, Andrea. Well, you can search across multiple web applications, absolutely, and you need the standard SharePoint server standard is what you need to do that. Okay? I would like to see you edit a page using SharePoint Designer. Okay, Eric, there's a separate webinar for SharePoint Designer. I'm sorry I cannot do that right now. There's just not enough time. But SharePoint Designer is definitely, that's my favorite product, and I can just go for hours talking about it. In fact, I've written 4 chapters already, some really, really big chapters in the SharePoint Designer 2010 book that's set to come out. So there's so much that we can do, but hang on a second here. Got a notification icon here. Let me just shut that off. Okay, sorry. So yeah, I won't be able to do that right now. I'm sorry about that. But there's definitely another webinar, which actually we already have a recording of the SharePoint Designer 2010 webinar that I did on the site. That is under the subscriber area. So you can check that out if you like. Okay. What is the difference between a visitor and a viewer? Very good question, Habib. A visitor is a person who can read stuff, right? So a visitor is a person who's going to go ahead and read documents, read list items, etc. A viewer, it has even less permissions than a visitor or a reader. So a viewer can only see stuff that's on the website. He or she cannot, for example, click on a document and have it open up in the client application. There's a thing called Excel services. Excel services, which comes with SharePoint Server Enterprise license, will let you see your Excel documents in the browser. So if you have that set up, then a viewer can click on a document, an Excel document, and see it in the browser. But if that's not turned on, then of course, the operating system is going to say, hey, you don't have Excel services running, meaning I'm going to show it to you in Excel. And for a viewer, that is not possible. So a viewer is going to get denied that access. That's basic premise of viewer and visitor. Okay. Debbie, your question, can you delete themes and go with a standard theme for all sites? Very good question. You can delete themes, absolutely. The SharePoint Server Administrator can decide to either delete themes or, better yet, hide themes. So then if you hide all the themes, then you only have, let's say, one theme available, and when a person comes in and tries to change the theme of their site, they will have to use that default theme that's available. So definitely you can do that. I would recommend hiding it, but you can delete them as well. Joey, your question, is this webinar being recorded? Okay, so I guess you probably got in after I talked about it. Yes, this webinar is being recorded, and I am going to be making it available to all you folks and everybody who has registered for this webinar. I'll send out an email through my newsletter, and you'll have a link to watch this webinar. It's going to be available for a week, and then after a week it's going to be under the subscribers only area. I'll be sending out that link within the next 2-3 days. Matt, your question, what is the purpose of like it and tag and notes on the upper right hand corner of a site page? And can you turn that function on and off? Well, let me answer the second question first. You can turn off that functionality of like it and tags and notes. That functionality is a feature in SharePoint, and the features can be turned off and turned on very easily. That feature, I believe, is a web application feature. So you can go to Central Administration of SharePoint if you're familiar with that, and from there you can turn off that feature. First question was, what is that for? Well, it's very much like your Facebook type of social networking type of functionality, where if you say, yeah, I like this page, or I'm going to put a tag onto this page or this document that this page is about blah, 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 something. Well, those tags, those notes and stuff are going to surface up when somebody is searching for a page or searching for some information, and it's going to show them that information that you've tagged, or you said that, yeah, I like it. So it makes the navigation better, and it makes the searching better, and the tags and notes show up on your My Sites if you have that configured. All right, next question here. We still have a few minutes, so I hope I'm able to get to most of your questions here. Don, your question, can you control viewable items and list entry pop-up list? I would like to hide some of the columns and not have them show up in the list. Yeah, so there you can control the items that show up. The form itself that comes up when you click on add new item or add new document, well, add new item, that form can be modified using SharePoint Designer. That form can also be modified using InfoPath now, which is new to SharePoint 2010. And when you modify that form, you can go ahead and delete fields if you like. And also you can modify the forms that show the actual items. And you can also not, you said that I don't want to show, for example, the task due date. No problem, you can do that using InfoPath or SharePoint Designer. I write about that at length in the SharePoint Designer 2010 book, and also there are videos about that. I believe that's already up on the site. And yeah, I believe that the videos of how you can modify that using InfoPath 2010 is already up on the site. It's been there for a while. In fact, it's on the InfoPath 2010 DVD as well that I just released a couple of days ago. Okay, what about the Explorer view? Good question, Gus. The Explorer view does exist in SharePoint, and the Explorer view will give you Windows Explorer type of access to your libraries. You go into a library and you click on the view option, and you said that I want to see the Explorer view. So it brings up Windows Explorer, brings up your site, your library. There are some limitations with the Explorer view. You will not see the server properties, for example, in the Explorer view. You'll not be able to interact with your documents in the same exact way as what you do in the browser. I mean, there are some limitations, but still Explorer view is pretty good because people are used to working with documents in Explorer. You can use it, definitely, and just be cautious of the limitations of it. For example, running a workflow or something on it, you cannot set up a workflow while in Explorer view. You have to go into SharePoint document library in the web browser before you could do that. Okay. Question from Regina. How long does a file remain in the new status in SharePoint 2010? Is that feature configurable? Yeah, I blogged about the new tag. This is, I think, like 4.5 or 5 years back when I blogged about it first, because a lot of people asked about that. Hey, what about this new tag? How long does it stay and how do I configure it? Yes, you can definitely configure it. You can have it not show up at all if you want, or you can have it show up for 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, whatever you want. There's a blog entry, like I said, about in my blog, blog.sharepointelearning.com, or you can just go to sharepoint-videos.com and click on the blog link there. You'll get to my blog and just do a search for new tag, and you'll find it of how you can configure it. It remains, I believe, for 2 days, and that's a default functionality, but then you can change that. Nick, your question, how would you sell SharePoint in an organization as a platform that does more than network location to share files? Wow. So you have a pretty hard sell ahead of you, I guess, Nick. You have to really show it. There's no easy way to sell it until you show the functionality. You got to show the search mechanisms. You got to show the electronic form generation using InfoPath mechanism. You got to show some charts and web parts and stuff like that that you can do. You got to show the different containers that you have. You know, having announcements, your contacts, your tasks, documents, everything that's in a container. You can show some of those things. I would suggest taking snippets of different videos out there, you know, or having just the videos completely, just piecing it together, or showing different parts of the videos, or images, snapshots to your client in a PowerPoint, saying, here's all the stuff you can do, and talking them through it. And then after that, the best thing to do is creating a proof of concept. There's a virtual machine that you can download from Microsoft, if you're familiar with virtual machines. Yeah, the virtual machine is called Information Worker 2010 Virtual Machine, something like that. Not very obvious that it's a SharePoint virtual machine, but that's what it is. And you can show that virtual machine, you can show the information directly in the virtual machine. That could be a proof of concept as well. So that's what I would recommend, Nick. Okay, Cindy, will these slides be available offline? I'm sorry, Cindy, but the slides will not be available offline. Like I said, the recording will be available, but not the slides. Okay, Debbie, wiki linking, auto update within site only? Yes, the wiki linking is it's within site only, and that's auto updates within site if you move the site. That is correct. Yeah, so it doesn't auto update if the link changes in upper level or lower level site, because you can't even link to upper level, lower level site. So wiki linking is only site based. Eric, please show where you got the path for the logo. The path for the logo. I think what you're talking about here, Eric, is where when I uploaded the Wing AdventureWorks logo in my site assets library, how did I get that path? Well, when you upload a image, you can click on the image itself, and once you click on the image after you uploaded it, it will show you the URL directly in the URL bar, the URL up top in the Internet Explorer. You take that, copy it to your clipboard, and then take it into your the change site icon page. Okay. Is Moss auto-saving your work as you build your page? Stuart, we're not calling it Moss anymore. Microsoft is calling it SharePoint Foundation or SharePoint Server. Moss is now the old name, Microsoft Office SharePoint Server. Does it auto-save your work? Yes. That is one point that I did not make very clear, so I apologize. But yes, it does auto-save your page modifications, which is awesome, so you don't lose your work if something goes down. Yeah, so if you have crashes or power loss or something, your information is still saved. It works very much like Microsoft Word or Excel or other Office environment pieces now. Cindy, will that contact you just added be added to the source list? Okay, so you're talking about when I added a contact to the web part, and that contact was, I believe, Paul Wang, the third contact. Yes. When I added that contact in the web part and my page, it did get added to the underlying list, the contacts list. Absolutely. Kim is asking, when inserting an item into a page, such as an existing list in your example, you mentioned you can add any list from the site. Can lists from subsites be added? No. Lists and libraries from subsites cannot be added directly from a page in the browser. But there is a way to do that using SharePoint Designer. SharePoint Designer can do awesome things. A lot of things that you cannot do to the browser you can do through SharePoint Designer. There's a video about that, how you can do it. It's a few steps, but you can publish your list or your library directly or a view of a list or library directly to your web part gallery, and then you can use that information from the web part gallery to show in any list or library. And then when your original list or library changes, your target list or library where it's being utilized on a different site also shows the changes. It works really, really awesome. Okay, I can take a couple more questions here, folks, then I got to go. Joshua, you're asking, are there any Fantastic 40 templates for 2010? Yes, the Fantastic 40 templates, I know the person who actually is working on it, and the Fantastic 40 templates are working already, the original one, but I believe they're working on the updated version as well for Fantastic 40, and they were asking me feedback on it as well. So if you have any feedback, give that to me on Fantastic 40. I can pass it on to them. Where can you download more master pages for 2010? You know, I'm not sure. I've not seen any master page demos outside anywhere. If you have any master page samples outside somewhere, shoot them to me as well. I would like to see. Okay, are there any videos on fully branding a SharePoint site from master pages? I'm glad you asked this question, Joshua. We are not focused on branding on SharePoint sites. Some branding, but not deep branding. That is definitely just not our focus on the SharePoint-videos.com site. Maybe in the future, but not right now, at least. Can you hide the quick launch menu for pages? Yes, you can hide the quick launch menu. What you can do is you can insert a script on the page. You can insert a script using something called a content editor web part, and that script could have style tags in there, and the style tags could look for the style tag for the quick launch menu and say go ahead and make the visible property to none. I do believe I have a video on how to do that for SharePoint 2007 stuff, but that works exactly the same as 2010. So it should be out on the website somewhere, I'm pretty sure. If not, I think there's a blog entry about that as well. Doreen, you're asking how, and this is gotta be the last question, folks, are you able to import contacts from Outlook into a contacts list? Absolutely. What you do is you go to a contacts list, you can click on Connect to Outlook from there, and once you're connected to Outlook from your contacts list from SharePoint shows up side by side with your contacts list in your Outlook. So then you can transfer contacts back and forth from SharePoint to your Outlook to SharePoint just by dragging and dropping your contacts. It works really nicely for contacts, for tasks, for calendar items. It works for multiple variety of ways. All right, folks, please fill out the survey. I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining me today, and until next time, take care and have a great day.